happening, everybody? Trey here, joined by my dad, Sean, and today, reactions to the classics. We are up to the year 2021. In our top 10 albums by year draft, we are almost to the current day right here. So, been a very fun series. Got a list going back all the way to the year 1965. So, looking forward to this one. And I actually did a just solo countdown last year of my top 25 records of 2021. So it was I didn't really have to do any listening for this year. So
I did.
So yeah, with that said, we'll get after it, man. Dad, you have the first pick here, and it's gonna be a familiar artist right here.
It is, Trey. He's got 2, 3. I got 4, 5. If you haven't been with us before, what have you been waiting for? We go all the way back to 1965. So go back and review those after this. It'll keep you busy for quite a while. And if you're a patron, pay attention because these albums are going to be nominated for our listening party. We do once a month on YouTube. If you're not a patron, check out the Patreon link below, the Patreon link on the end screen. Patrons make this thing go. We put up videos like this every single day. My number one pick, Trey, is he's familiar at the top of my list. This is his third album in a row to top my list. We got Nick Cave and Warren Ellis with Carnage, their first full studio length album together. But they do a bunch of composing for movies. They were also on the Grinderman way back when in the 70s. And, of course, Nick Cave and the Bad Seed. Widespread critical acclaim, 91 on Metacritic. His third album to score 90 or better. And it was the highest rated album of 2021 by Metacritic. And that's important because he's the only artist to ever have won Album of the Year at Metacritic 3 years in a row. For, of course, The Skeleton Tree, Ghosteen, and this album. And all three of those are my top picks. It's only 40 minutes long and 8 songs, which is a lot different than those two previous albums, especially Ghosteen. Favorites are Hand to God, the first track, White Elephant, which if you're an American, you identify with a certain political party, White Elephant. I don't know if you're going to like this song. And then we got Shattered Ground are my faves. Now, 8 songs, the first 4 kind of vacillate back to kind of an earlier sound for Nick. And then the last 4 are very much Ghosteen type sounds. So this album was fantastic.
No, man, Nick Cave, an absolute legend. Yeah, my first pick is going to be Lingua Ignota's record, Sinner Get Ready.
I don't even know how to pronounce that.
The 4th album, and from Christian Hayter, who goes by this, and she's actually retiring this stage name, and maybe going to do some different type of stuff in the future. So I'll be definitely checking out what she has to do next. But as the title suggests, right, this a lot of religious type of themes, which she touches on a lot in her previous work. Her fears, doubts, belief, loneliness, and relationship to God, and the way she tackles those concepts very honestly is impressive, man. Musically, kind of have a lot of dark drones, harsh pianos, and very impassioned vocals by Lingua right here. So, man, very powerful listen, especially if you are a religious person. I think it might hit a little different as well.
I got to listen to this.
I gave it a full 5 stars last year, which I rarely give out, but it was big time, man. My favorites are The Order of Spiritual Virgins and Pennsylvania Furnace, but this isn't one to just throw along after a hard day of work. Probably you gotta listen to the full thing and kind of buckle up for it. But shout out to her, and also shout out to Little Sims, who's taken my second pick here. Sometimes might be Introvert. Her 4th record, Little Sims, one of the top 5 MCs going today, in my opinion, right here. And this is arguably the best produced record of the year. Some very almost cinematic and theatrical type of sounds on this record, and you have that including in some interludes as well. She talks about womanhood, the unique challenges that brings, and I just think she also, bounces around the relationship with her father, her reach as an artist, and of course her introverted personality and how that, impacts all of that. So not a wasted note on here. My favorites are Introvert and I Love You, I Hate You, and then Woman.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good album. I listened to it. It probably wouldn't have made my top 5, but it would have been right underneath it. My second pick, Silk Sonic.
Love it.
An Evening with Silk Sonic. Debut studio album. I did listen to this album last year and thought it was great. Now I'm like, I've listened to all these albums since then. What am I going to think? Still, it's just so smooth.
Just like you said, Dad, I love Anderson .Paak's, solo work as well. And, Bruno Mars is, I think, one of the more talented superstars.
He really is. Yeah,
man.
His voice is great. You might not like him. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But he's got a lot of talent. And Bruno and Anderson met only in 2017 when Anderson was a support group for Bruno's tour in Europe.
That's awesome.
So they actually went in the studio and recorded part of this album in 2017. They didn't get a chance to finish it, so they went back in 2020 and 2021 and finished it. So I thought that was kind of crazy. At the Grammys in 2022, it won 4 Grammy Awards, and they were so smooth there with the table up front. It was great, including Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best R&B Performance, and Best R&B Song. Their chemistry is fantastic. It's not like you just don't find this very often. You watch their videos, like you can just tell. 70s throwback, pure coolness. 83 on Metacritic, but I'll tell you this: I was surprised. The reviews are all over the place.
Some interesting.
Some of the critics do not like it. I'm going to be cliched here. The 2 singles, "Leave the Door Open" and "Smoking Out the Window," are the highlights for me, but great album.
And I love the release of this record too, because they came out with those singles and they kind of stretched out the record. But I kind of like building the anticipation a little bit, because when it did finally drop, it's like, let's go, man. That's one of the records from recent history where it's like you could tell a lot of people from a lot of different fandoms were excited for it.
That's a good point, and that is the way most records are released now, which is weird. I'll look and research an album, and it'll be like, these 4 singles were released before the album. I'm like, well, back in my day, I'm the old hat. It was a single, and then the album came out a week or 2 later, and that's it, man. So different world in the streaming world, because it doesn't really matter how you do it. Next up, my third pick, someone who's been on my list a lot of these years.
Yeah.
And I would have been surprised at this going into it. Lana Del Rey, Chemtrails Over the Country Club, 8th studio album. She will release her 9th studio album later in 2021, which I'll talk about in a little while. It's described as folk, country folk, and Americana. Her album's similar sounding, yet diverse in many ways, right? Like a sort of similar sound to her voice and the way she does things, but you're going to get some differences in all of her albums. Deals with themes of escapism, love, heartbreak, and nostalgia. Usual references to Americana, emotions of disillusionment. Received acclaim from music critics, while many comparing it to the sound to its predecessor.
Yeah.
And she's not always beloved by critics. Topped the UK albums chart, her 5th #1 there. Phase of the title track, White Dress, and Let Me Love You Like a Woman.
Yeah, this was an overall kind of miss or just meh for me for Lana's work, but I know a lot of people enjoyed it. So and as did you,
as did I.
So I'm going with my next pick right here, Injury Reserve. By the time I get to Phoenix, their 2nd record, Injury Reserve. How would I describe them? Probably experimental hip hop.
That's what I was wondering.
I guess their first record since the death of their bandmate Stepa Grog. So again, a bit of a heavier listen, so to speak. I really am a big fan of the track Knees, and again, I think it kind of hits that Greek depression as well as any release of this year. So it also at the closer kind of has a great sample of Brian Eno's "Here Come the Warm Jets," which is probably my favorite Brian Eno track.
Great track.
So the album as a whole kind of experiments with those abstract sounds and painful feelings that come with grief. So I enjoyed it. And my next pick going to be Black Midi's Cavalcade. Man, what a great group that is coming out of the UK in recent years. I've enjoyed all of their records. This kind of pushes the boundaries of, I'd say, prog rock with a little jazz, but it's kind of tough to describe. Packs a heavy punch. The opener, John L., the 10-minute epic closer, Ascending Forth, is great. And though I'm not maybe putting on Black Midi every day or anything, whenever I do, I'm always impressed with what they're doing, and still kind of fusing those different elements from jazz and prog and everything, and some of the best drumming of the year by Morgan Simpson as well. So those are my favorites. I know you weren't a huge fan of this record.
I wasn't. I mean, it's fine, but no, I wasn't a huge fan of this record, but that's all right. All right, next up, I have a band that I'm a huge fan of. The War on Drugs. I don't live here anymore. 5th studio album, recorded at 7 different studios over 3 years. And with that, it caused some delaying of the album because Adam Graniso is, of course, the brainchild behind The War on Drugs, writes all their stuff. When they were going to release the album, right before they went to release it, he's like, wait a minute. Some of those songs that he'd done 3 years before, he's like, I'm totally changing these up. So this thing got delayed because he went back. So I think 3 years is probably a bit too long to be working on things. My fave is the title track. It's maybe my favorite track of theirs ever. But all their albums are very similar sound. They're a great late night vibe. Throw on your headphones, and I don't know that you pull out too many songs for repeated listens, but you just it's a great vibe album. Nothing to say about that, Trey?
Yeah, I don't recall listening to it.
Okay, no, that's fine. And my last pick, an album that I absolutely loved. I would have thought it'd be number one early on before I went starting to listen to all these albums. But The Killers' Pressure Machine, 7th studio album, concept album based on Brandon Flowers, of course, the lead singer of The Killers. Life growing up in a small town in Utah.
And you did a really good full review of this.
I did. So if you want to know more about it, check that out. Their 7th consecutive number one in the UK. The UK love The Killers. You guys are way ahead of us here. I love The Killers. And Brandon's 2 solo albums also went to number one in the UK. So this boy's got 9. No singles released for a good reason. Like, none of these are something that you're going to spin on repeat. It's storytelling from start to finish. It's very interesting that they use these spoken words of town people before each song. Cool. You know, it's definitely kind of an art piece. They used analog methods. They didn't mix it up. Brandon said, you can get caught up in having money and having time in studios and laboring over something. We're definitely guilty of that. This was different. Sean Everett, who also produced The War on Drugs, my previous track, which is interesting, was not allowed to mix on the computer. We're mixing on a board, old school to tape, and we weren't making a bunch of changes. He said they took inspiration from Springsteen's Nebraska and also Johnny Cash and John Prine. Those are 3 good dudes to take. My faves are Quiet Town, Terrible Thing, In the Car Outside, and West Hills, but those kind of change at times, and some other ones can come in there.
Yeah, I like this record because it is so left field compared to the rest of their catalog.
Especially Imploding the Mirage, which came out the year before. It's so big and grand.
So, yeah, man, big fan of that record, and I'm closing out my list with the debut record from Genesis Owusu, Smiling with No Teeth, man. What a way to blend soul, hip-hop, R&B, healthy dose of synths in here as well. Makes the record never become boring, and I'm really looking forward if he's already this creative and kind of pushing some boundaries on his debut record. I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got in the future. It's cool, with these more recent records, right? You kind of be like, okay, I like this artist.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, now I know who these people are.
So. Kind of track through. So you can really tell Genesis's resiliency through this record as well, coming through, his dark moments and rising up on top. And hey, he was only 22 when he came out with this. So my favorites are Don't Need You, Gold Chains, No Looking Back, and Drown. And that'll take us now to our honorable mentions. For me, I have Squids, Bright Green Field, talking about great UK bands. Magdalena Bay's debut, Mercurial World, a synth pop duo from Miami. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Kanye's Donda, JPEG Mafia's LP are going to be on my list as well.
I went back and listened to Donda again because I listened to it a few times last year, and I listened to the tracks I liked. But that thing is quite going back to 27 tracks, it's like insane. But my honorable mentions, my near miss, my number 6, almost on there. And Trey, I'm sure you don't like this one either because you like your other one, but Lana Del Rey, Blue Banisters. It was just, I thought it was really good. Black Country, New Road. I like them a lot better than Black Midi for this, but they both got albums in 2022, so that may change. For the first time is the title of that. Dave shows up again for me. We're all alone in this together. Really almost as good or right on par with Psychodrama, his debut.
I love that album name too.
Oh, yeah, it's great, man. It's great. Turnstile, Glow On. Sam Fender, 17 Going Under, a tremendous album. Sam is absolutely fantastic. And if you were in the UK, he opened up for the Killers on their concert tour. That would have been an absolute beast to see. Julian Baker, Little Oblivions. Trey, you love Julian. You've seen her in concert 2 or 3 times. You told me you weren't really feeling this, so I thought this was really good. So, Churches, Screen, Violence. Arlo Parks, Collapsed in Sunbeams. Yola, Stand for Myself. And Biffy Clyro, is that how you say that, Trey? The Myth of the Happily Ever After. An awfully good album. So
nice, man. Well, as we said at the start, let us know your winner, and we'll link my top 25 from 2021 and that Killers video in there as well if you want to check that out. But we are now up to current day 2022.
One left, baby.
And so it's been a very fun series, man. Thanks to everybody who's been on the journey with us. And so we'll be back soon with the 2022 top 10 albums, and then the series will be wrapped on up. Yep,
we'll do a few offshoots from it though, so be looking for those. But I guess that wraps it up for today.
So until next time, thanks for watching, y'all. Happy listening, and we will see you.